Hey guys, what is going on? So I just finished my first training block under a coach, and this is my first time being coached. So I wanted to go over everything that I kind of did over this block, the progress that I saw, what it's been like, how I've been liking it, everything like that. So before I get into that, I do just kind of want to talk about what I was doing leading up to this and kind of my strategy that I've been using so far during this kind of bulking process, being coached, everything like that, and how I was thinking leading up to this. So basically, the coach that I have is somebody that I've been talking to for months, and I had kind of entertained the idea of having him as my coach for a while. And once, I finally started to really consider it, we basically decided that when I started my bulk would be when I would start getting coached. And when we started having this conversation, it was during my cut. So basically, I started to not really wants to be cutting anymore. So I basically just sped up the process of cutting, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Like, I don't regret the way that I did it, but basically my heart wasn't in the training. I wasn't really having a good time. I was basically just trying to get through the cut just so I could start bulking again and so I could start getting coached. So everything got kind of stale. And as opposed to trying to hold on to all my strength and size and keep lifting heavy and trying to hit PRs and everything like that, which I would normally do during a cut, I basically just said, okay, this is going to be my last hurrah, training the way that I kind of have before, which has largely been nucleus overload training. So if you're not familiar with what that is, basically you're just having very high frequency bodybuilding style training. And Team 3D Alpha, Megan, he talks about that on his channel a lot if you're more interested in that. But that has largely been the way that I've been training the past couple years. So I figured, okay, as opposed to trying to hit some PRs in a cut or something like that, I'm just going to train every body part every day, do full body, do pump workouts and everything like that. And that's what I did. And for anybody who's tried that kind of training style, while it can set you up for future success, and that's kind of the idea behind nucleus overload training, it's not necessarily great for your strength. So I did see my strength drop off in the last few weeks of my cut. Could have been due to lack of calories, could have been due to a number of things, but also that style of training isn't necessarily great for that. So I knew that I was kind of coming into this not as strong as I possibly could be. And then I also did the mTOR reset, which is basically taking an entire week off of the gym. And again, if I'm not bench pressing regularly, my bench press will go down. That's just kind of the way that I am. So when I wasn't really doing heavy compound lifts, and then I took a whole week off from the gym to kind of set my body up for future growth, well, when I came back and I started bulking again, I wasn't necessarily super strong. So a lot of this progress that you may see, or that I am going to talk about here, some of it is just due to being out of practice. Some of it is coming out of a cut. So take that with a grain of salt. It's not like just as I started getting coached that my strength just started exploding out of nowhere. There is a backstory to that. That being said, I do think that this coaching has been very effective. So anyway, started my bulk at about 242. I ended my cut at 238, but I put on about 4 pounds during that kind of nucleus overload deload week. So 242 is around where I started. Currently I'm 246. So I've been putting on about 1 pound per week, which is a little bit fast. Probably a little bit faster than I want to be doing throughout the duration of the bulk, just because I'm starting this bulk at a little bit higher of a weight. Literally last time I was below 220, whereas now I'm starting it at 242. So I'm definitely, definitely have more muscle, but also have a little bit more fat than where I started my last bulk. And I gained about 5 pounds a month for 9 months that time. So I definitely want to keep the duration of the bulk, but maybe make it a little bit less aggressive, at least during certain portions of it, just because I don't want to get to 30% body fat or something like that. So, but yeah, that's where I started, 242. I'm currently 246. In terms of my kind of strength numbers and stuff like that, I'll start with the bad, because there's only 2 bad things really. And that is my pressing strength didn't really seem to go up over the course of this block. And it's kind of weird because I was progressing on my kind of higher rep set. So basically I was learning how to function with RPE. So I wasn't necessarily maxing out like I used to. So for example, if I knew that I could do 315 for 10, let's say, if I got 315 for 11, I knew that I got stronger in rep work. Whereas this time around, I was functioning with RP 7, RP 8, right? So I didn't exactly know where I was at any given time. And it seemed like I was progressing in terms of, oh, this seemed easier than last week. It's more weight. It seems like a similar RP. And I felt like I was progressing, and it's possible that I was. But I had 2 instances where I basically everything was progressing. I went ahead and I did that weight and I just overshot significantly. And it like happened to me on 2 different lifts. And basically, even though these lifts are a little bit different than I would have otherwise done, so I wasn't taking like my old maxes into consideration, I was fully going off of, trying to beat the books, trying to progress on my previous training and just keeping my old RP in mind. And then I would like up the weight and things would just, go way different. So, I talked to my coach about that. And I think the conclusion that we came to is just that I have been so used to benching or pressing with such significant frequency, whereas now not only is my volume on pressing way, way down, but my frequency is like a third of what it used to be, because I'm only pressing 2 times a week as opposed to like 6, sometimes even 7 times a week. And a lot of people don't believe that I used to press, that much, but I really did. Oftentimes I would bench press, and then a lot of days I would also overhead press. So going from 6 pressing sessions a week to 2 was very much like a shock to my system. And that's pretty much the only aspect of my training that wasn't progressing. I'm not sure if it was progressing and it just, I was struggling to kind of chart it, or if it, if it regressed or if it stayed around the same. But either way, not a lot of progress in the pressing aspect of my training. And again, we just kind of chalk that up to a lack of frequency. So we are adding another upper body day, and I believe we will be pressing on that day. So upping the frequency to 3 times, and then maybe on the next training block we'll do 4, and maybe that'll be the sweet spot for me. But anyway, that's the only things that I didn't really progress on. Otherwise, we would do a top set, and then we do back off sets with the pressing. So usually only that top set was the thing that was really affected. The other things seem to be progressing. And then we go into accessory lifts. So a lot of this was focused on the triceps for me in particular. And every single workout, every single session, not only did I beat the books on something, and I wasn't holding back. We weren't saying, okay, do this at RP 7. Like oftentimes it was like, do this for an AMRAP, or do this with the most amount of weight that you can. And it was very close in terms of proximity to failure. So this was not me misjudging RPE. Every single time I did a tricep accessory, I was able to beat the books either by a slight amount or a pretty significant amount, like kind of double what you kind of expect week to week. I did that every single workout. So basically my tricep, strength when it came to accessories went up dramatically over the course of this. So, I don't really track my accessories, or at least I didn't back then, so I don't really have a gauge. But basically I was going as hard as I could every week on the accessories, and I just continue to increase every single session. So that was amazing. And to see my tricep strength or my accessory volume and intensity and everything go up at that rate, and then see my pressing go down, just kind of further reinforced that it's not that I'm not getting stronger, it's not that I'm not growing, it's more so like, hey, we have a lack of frequency here, and the fact that you had this skill that you acquired by keeping your frequency high, when you drop that off, it kind of can go down. So that's kind of the idea there. It's also entirely possible that my triceps were overstimulated by, constantly progressing in terms of, my tricep work, and maybe that took away from my bench. I don't really know. We're going to figure it out over the course of months, not days. So we'll figure that out. Me and my coach are going to basically just kind of be brainstorming to figure out, hey, how's this going to work? And so that's kind of the major thing that I really like about coaching thus far, is that like we can have conversations and like work it out. It's not just like, okay, this is what we're doing, follow orders, just do this as outlined. Like I really am able to communicate and be like, hey, why do you think this is happening? Should we add an extra day? Should I shift this day to this day? Etc. It's very productive, and that's exactly what I wanted out of coaching. So it's been very positive for me there. So that's kind of the upper body. Also with my back work, I do back work every day. So on upper days, I'll do something that's a little bit more, upper back or lat focus. And then on lower body days, I do like low back movement. And that's been a huge emphasis for us, is strengthening my lower back, because I did have, I've talked about it on this channel before, but I have had a back injury fairly recently, and then I had a more significant back injury when I was in high school, and that's kind of prevented me from being able to like hammer my low back, and that's why my deadlift is nowhere near it should be. So basically we're really attacking the triceps and the lower back, and we'll see what happens there. So basically my back work has been progressing quite well as well. Not necessarily at the blistering rate that my triceps have been improving, but my back has just kind of been getting stronger over the course of this. A lot of lower back volume, I'm handling it pretty well. So very happy about that, because I think my lower back is probably my number one like true weakness in terms of like, if you're like a chain, that's like my weakest link, I would say. And that's something I really need to fix to be able to get stronger on lower body movements in particular. So low back's getting better. Back work has been doing well. And then for my legs, I have been doing some, specific like quad exercises and stuff like that, like leg extensions. But a lot of the leg exercises that I'm doing are just kind of heavier compound lifts. And those have been exploding. So this is the happiest, like this is my favorite aspect of this whole, training block, has been my progress in my lower body lifts, my heavy compounds. Those have been going up like very, very fast. And it's getting to the point where I'm like, okay, my front squats have been doing really well. I've been doing heel elevated, high bar, squats, where I'm really focusing on getting the quads up, because I'm kind of a posterior chain dominant lifter when it comes to the lower body, which is kind of funny because my low back is so weak. But my glutes and my hamstrings often take, the vast majority of like soreness of work. I kind of do like a good morning type of squat. And so being upright, focusing on the quads, getting, good range of motion, putting as much emphasis on the quads as possible has been another kind of secondary goal for us. And, my front squats have been going so well. My, heel elevated, high bar squats, where I'm keeping my weight on my, on my quads and really emphasizing that knee bend and everything like that. Those have been progressing almost as good as the front squat. So basically, I'm concluding that my quads are getting significantly stronger, both in terms of a accessory environment as well as a compound movement environment. So that's very, very exciting, because I think my squat is probably, something that if I actually worked on it consistently, it would actually be much more impressive than what it has otherwise been, because I've kind of been neglecting my legs. So bringing up that low back, bringing up those quads, and, I'm still doing like stiff leg deadlifts and stuff like that, or RDLs, whatever you want to call them. I'm doing those. So everything's kind of coming up, especially the lower body, but then my back is improving, my triceps are improving, at least from an accessory standpoint. So the progress has been very, very impressive for me, outside of, like I said, the pressing strength is not really there. And we're going to, change some things up in terms of frequency, pressing movements, doing them a little bit more and stuff like that. And we'll see if we can bring that up. But again, I am doing self-limiting variations when it comes to my pressing. So I haven't done like a specific bench press. I've done like t-shirt touch, pause, Larsen press. I've done like incline bench and stuff like that. So we're not really doing the exact like flat bench that I'm used to. So again, just a lot of adjustment from my old style of training to, what we're currently doing here. So been going very well. I've had so many people ask me, how is coaching going? And it's very hard to give like a super elaborate answer to everybody. But now that I have an entire block of training in the books, this is kind of the more elaborate response that I think a lot of you guys are kind of interested in. If you're not interested, that's totally okay. I'm just logging my experience thus far. But I'm having a very good time. And, I plan to continue, stay with Paris and, see how this progresses over time, because I really think that I'm on the right path in terms of getting some gains. And honestly, I wish I would have done this sooner. But either way, I made some really good progress in the last year or so without, very smart like programming, stuff like that. So if this can take me to the next level, that would be absolutely insane. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I'll keep you updated, and I'll talk to you soon.